Interpretability in LoRa's study depends on two factors. First, the features that we use directly derive from linguistic theories. And second, the function that we use to map those features onto the brain. This function is linear and therefore interpretable. What I'd like to argue is that none of these two factors are necessary for interpretability. For instance, you can replace linguistic features with a deep neural network. This is what we've done with Charlotte Koster, where we quantified the extent to which the activations of a deep net in response to a word correlated with the activations of the brain in response to the same word. When we do this using a convolutional neural network, a CNN, trained to recognize characters from images, we obtain a correlation score, a brain score, that vary as a function of time. These are imagery recordings, following the onset of the word, here at T0. Now we can do the same analysis using a word embedding. A word embedding is a neural network trained to predict the context of each word. For instance, when you read the word cats, it is likely that the surrounding context contains the word dogs, the word mice, but not the word rain. Now we can assess the extent to which the activations of word embeddings improve the correlation score over those of the CNN. When we do this analysis, we obtain this green curve. And we can again do this for a so-called language model. A language model is a deep net trained to predict the next word given a context. So for instance, if you give the context dogs chase, you can train the network to guess that the next word should be cats. Again, you can do this correlation analysis and see that the activations of the deep net improve the brain score with the different types of dynamics. Now, why are these brain scores interpretable? They are interpretable because the language model, the word embedding, and the visual CNN, they do not access information in the same way. Specifically, the language model, in red, has access to the context of words, not only during training, but also during prediction, during inference. This is to be contrasted with the word embedding, which has access to the context of words in training. It has to guess what the context is, and therefore it has access to it through the loss function. But at inference time, when we use this word embedding, we cannot provide a context in which, for instance, the word cats is used. Finally, the visual CNN never had access to context, neither at training nor at inference. It just tried to recognize individual characters from images without knowing what the context of those words is. So we can see that the CNN, the word embedding, and the language model can respectively generate visual, lexical, and compositional representations at best. And we can then correlate these representations not only as a function of time, but as a function of space. This is what we've done here using source modeling. And we see that the early visual response, around 100 milliseconds, correlates with the activations of the CNN in blue, and those are visual representations. These activations propagate along the ventral stream and ultimately become cyan, which is a mixture of green and blue, indicating that this area transforms visual representations into lexical one, which is great because this area is known to be the visual word form area. If we wait a little bit more, we see that around 400 milliseconds, we have large network in the left hemisphere, which starts to correlate with the lexical representations. It starts to be green. And if we wait a little bit more, after some recurrent activity, we'll see that ultimately the activations become orange and red, meaning that these distributed networks generate activation that are correlated with compositional representations. So these are clear examples on how we can use deep neural networks to interpret what levels of representations are being generated in the brain at each time instance and at each spatial location. However, the mapping between these deep nets and the brain is still based on a linear function. What I'd like to argue is that we don't need to necessarily have a linear mapping functions. In fact, we can replace this linear mapping function with a nonlinear mapping function. This is what we've done with Alexandre Desfossés and Omar El-Shebab by training a deep net to predict brain dynamics, brain activity, from the preceding context. The resulting brain scores massively improve as compared to the one that we obtain with a linear model. Have we lost interpretability? Well, not necessarily. We can probe a posteriori whether word length and word frequency, which are visual and lexical features, whether these two features impact brain scores at specific time or specific places. And we observe that word length impacts brain scores in the back of the brain, presumably from the early visual areas, around 100 milliseconds, whereas word frequency impacts frontal parts of the brain, around 400 milliseconds, as expected. In other words, this deep neural network, this nonlinear mapping function, is able to accurately deconfound these two collinear features. So all in all, I think these different elements illustrate that the issue is not so much about linear mapping or linear modeling versus nonlinear modeling. The issue is about interpretability, and in many cases, these two issues can actually be largely independent from one another. With this, I'd like to thank you all for your attention and thank all of the people who contributed to the organization of this debate.